Good Yontif.
Good Yontif.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
I had to do it. I am Sarah Holland, and I'm honored to be serving my second year as president of the CBI Board of Directors. In your High Holiday program, we have updates about the Senior Rabbi Search Committee and our building project, and we have updates also on our website. I invite you to read the board updates that I send roughly quarterly that tell you what's happening at the board level. And of course, please find me or any other board member, they have a ribbon on their name tag, if you have questions or if you need additional information. We want to hear from you, and we need your feedback to take important steps as a congregation. The reason I'm mentioning those resources is that something you'll be glad to hear, which is that I will not stand here tonight and talk to you about all those boring details. So before I move on to what I would like to talk about tonight, I want to first thank our clergy, staff, and volunteer leaders who made this day possible. We don't have time to acknowledge every individual who's played a role in making today happen, but I want to especially recognize our incomparable clergy team, Interim Senior Rabbi David Young, Associate Rabbi Kelly Levy, and cantorial soloist Sarah Afner, our hardworking and dedicated staff led by Jake Cohen. Is he here this time? Yeah. At the early service, I couldn't find him. There he is. The talented Mamie Fong on piano and Anne-Marie Casper on cello. Our beautiful choir, led by Jeffrey Jones Ragona, Brotherhood for being our ushers, Sisterhood for preparing the Break the Fast, our talented communications and AV teams, the facilities and securities teams who help keep us safe, our childcare team whose dedication allows many of us to worship. And finally, I want to give a big shout out to the amazing board of directors who govern and support CBI as volunteer leaders. All of those people and many, many more pour hours of their time into the mission of fostering a thriving Jewish community by embracing spirituality, learning, and a sense of belonging. Please join me in giving everyone who contributes their time a big round of applause. Next, I want to give you a Netflix-style recap from my presentation last year, although you cannot click skip intro. Last year, I spoke with you all about my Polish grandmother's experience as a Holocaust refugee, including her perilous journey from Europe to New York City. Many of you have since asked about my grandma, and I'm happy to tell you that she is still going at age 99, and she is just as ornery as ever. What I want to talk to you about tonight is rebuilding our sanctuary and upgrading our campus. As we look ahead to that big project, I want to reassure you that I have built a synagogue before. Well, sorta. When I was a little girl growing up in Arlington, Texas, my family was part of an effort to create and build a synagogue there. There was no synagogue in the mid-cities, although there were synagogues in Dallas and Fort Worth. When I was thinking about my memories from that time, I realized they were a child's memories, and I wanted the fuller picture. So I called my mom and dad to get more information about what was happening behind the scenes. My dad and his lovely partner, Ellen Pincus, are watching the live stream right now from Fort Worth. When I told them what I planned to talk about, they both started telling me all about the history of what is now Beth Shalom in Arlington, since they each served as president there. In fact, my dad was president when I had my bat mitzvah, just as I will have the honor of being president when my oldest Edith has her bat mitzvah in May. When I said that at the 5 p.m. service, she was sitting right there and she was mortified. I am so lucky to still have and be very close with both of my parents and to seek their advice about all things, including their Jewish adventures. Now that I myself am a mom, with my own Jewish mom adventures, I want to especially highlight my mom's influence on me. So I sent my mom actually a draft of this speech, but I cut this part out. So surprise, Mom. You didn't know this part was coming. So my mom, who is my best friend, my mentor as a lawyer and volunteer, and the most wonderful mom ever, is also watching this right now on YouTube with my stepdad, Dan Rourke. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dan. I hope the tech is working because I cannot help you right now. They live in Dripping Springs, and my mom would love to be here, but she has emphysema, and she can no longer make car trips because of her health. She has been on supplemental oxygen for a couple of years, and breathing can be difficult for her. Despite this, she still talks to me every day. And even when she's having a tough time, she talks with my kids about their school and activities and books they're reading. I know that when she does that, it wipes her out. But nothing is more important to her than her grandchildren, and she continues to be a source of entirely positive support for them, no matter her health struggles. I'm in awe of my mom every day, and will never again know someone like her. Keenly intellectual, dry sense of humor, bottomless love for her family, and an encyclopedic knowledge of murder mysteries, if it's a British cozy, whatever that means. We love to talk politics. In fact, she tells me that my very first experience with political volunteerism was when my mom was very pregnant with me and volunteered to help Martin Frost become the first Jewish congressman from Texas. I'm also forever indebted to Dan, who takes care of my mom every day. I asked Rabbi Fulberg several months ago if there's a Jewish equivalent of a saint. He essentially said no, but Dan is a saint. Back to my story, when I called my parents for their adult perspectives on Jewish life in the 1980s in Arlington, they both remembered that my dad and the other dads would drive the kids each Sunday to Bethel and Fort Worth for religious school. My mom distinctly remembers that the dads would go to Karshan's Deli while the kids were in Sunday school to eat all the things they weren't supposed to. Eventually, the families grew tired of trekking to Dallas or Fort Worth for services and religious education and started Beth Shalom in Arlington. They formed the synagogue, but they had no dedicated space. There was already a JCC in Arlington that had some money, and you'll be shocked to hear this, but the Jewish community disagreed on whether the JCC should give money to Beth Shalom for a building. In the end, with the donation of a tract of land in North Arlington and donations from member families, Beth Shalom started construction. But that whole process took years, created inconveniences, caused disagreements, and cost a lot of money. While that process played out, we started to use various spaces around town for services and religious school. To this day, I remember my very first day of Sunday school when I was 4 years old. It was held in a pool hall owned by a member. So basically, I went to Sunday school at a bar. It was dark and sticky in there. I remember a well-loved poster of the Hebrew alphabet was tacked on the partition wall of my classroom, but it was the greatest thing ever. After we finished class, we would run to the arcade games and get to play Pac-Man and all the other classics. The parents all seemed to have a great time hanging out at the pool hall too, and they wouldn't even rush us to leave. Later, we would attend Sunday school, and my older brother David would go to midweek Hebrew at a jewelry store. Each Sunday and Wednesday, we would take over the offices above the storefront. While I don't remember much of the specifics of what we learned in class, I do remember sneaking down to the jewelry store parking lot with my brother and his friends to do Mad Libs. We thought it was a riot to say inappropriate words each time the Mad Lib called for a noun or a verb. After much hard work, fundraising, and building, the new synagogue in Arlington was finally ready in 1986. The very first B'nai Mitzvah was my brother's bar mitzvah. When I asked my brother about it recently, he said that the interior wasn't even finished yet when he was on the bima reading Torah. And my dad remembered having to run and buy trash cans and other necessities for the inside of the building before my brother led Friday night services. But being in a space that was all our own and was designed for Jewish worship, education, and fellowship was exhilarating. For the next 10 years, that building was my home away from home. My two best friends, who are still two of my dearest friends, were in my class, As teenagers, we'd sit in the back of the sanctuary, giggling and whispering during Shabbat services. I almost had my first kiss next to the tree out front. And my friends' parents were like my parents too. They would feed us, reprimand us, hug us, and shush us. So while I have few memories of the actual construction process itself, I clearly recollect the relationships and warmth that grew in that building after construction was complete. When I asked my mom to describe what it was like being there, she told me it was a second home, almost like a place of refuge. She talked about the inclusivity and acceptance of different religious views and backgrounds, the feeling of community when the moms would help each other out, and lifelong friendships we all found. I could tell her memories came flooding back as she suddenly couldn't stop talking about our wonderful Rabbi Keith Stern, telling me funny stories and reminiscing about my brother's bar mitzvah and my bat mitzvah. Now, I'm the parent looking ahead to a building project and planning my eldest bat mitzvah celebration. Congregation Beth Israel is embarking on a project that, like the one in Arlington in the 1980s, will be hard. There are differences between what the Jewish community in Arlington faced then and what we face here today. We are recovering from an arson that left our sanctuary burned and unusable. We're not a new congregation. In fact, we're approaching our 150th anniversary. What is similar, though, is we will build together. While we will have to make tough choices, which will always entail a degree of disagreement here and there, and all of us will have to give time and money to support the project, we will do that, the easy parts and the challenging parts, as a community. We will create a beautiful worship space in the center of Austin for prayer, music, and reflection. We will create office and community spaces that are light-filled and hopefully mold-free. And we will create an even stronger, closer-knit community in the process. All of this work, all of this transition, and all of these difficulties will forge new lasting memories for all of us and all of our children. And over time, those memories will only grow sweeter and sweeter until one day, when we're far older, we too will be eager to recount them to our loved ones, hopefully as funny stories. When my daughter Edith is called to the Torah in May, she will not become bat mitzvah in a brand new sanctuary like my brother did, but boy, that would have made for a nice wrap up at the end of this talk. But I can hope that Doris, who just started Hebrew school, or at least, God help us, 6-year-old Simon, will read from the Torah on the bima in our new sanctuary. And in the meantime, I hope that they and each of you can accept the inconveniences and requests for help to come as we revitalize our campus and create space that will be the home away from home for our children and grandchildren. Gamar Hatima Tova, may you be sealed in the book of life. May the year ahead bring hope, grit, and patience to our community. And may our children and grandchildren grow up in a space that embraces, protects, energizes, and strengthens Jewish life in Central Texas. Thank you.